Hello YouTube. I believe we're on part 4 now, and in this one I'm going to show you how I clean this side of this liner. I have cleaned, and this is what it looked like to start with. And one of my most favorite tools for this type of cleaning, especially on if they're brass or nickel silver liners, is to use rust erasers. Here's a couple different kinds. These have been around forever. They work incredibly well. I recently found these. There's a fine, medium, and a coarse. You order them in a set. They're not expensive at all. And I rarely use the coarse, especially on brass. I will start out with the medium, and I like these because they unlike a file or something like that, you're not in much danger of actually changing a profile. You're just going to really clean off the surface crud. So again, let me see if I can stay out of your way here. It's really hard to do this without seeing what you're doing, but I think you can see I'm just laying that flat on there to give it support, and then I'll use the medium to take off all the surface crud. And there's no trick to this, no secret. You just keep going until you've got it. And there you can see how that is taking all this off. And on some of this, where it, like here, it's really thick, I'll take a knife, and just to speed things up, I'll take my shop knife, my work knife, and being careful not to gouge into it, I'll remove some of that really thick stuff on the top. You don't need to. This just will speed your work up a lot. Oh, and one thing I wanted to tell you too, when I was driving those pins out, I just got this steady at the blade show, and when I did it on camera, I was using this end out here, and I discovered that if I use the massive heavier part back here, there's not as much spring in it, and it just drove those pins right out. So if you have one of these, that's a top tip. But on this, basically, we will medium, just take that and keep going. Until we've removed all of that. Then I'll take the fine and go back over it, and I'll end up with a surface pretty much like most of these had when they left the factory. And when you take one apart, if it's not totally gone inside like this one was, you can look at it and see what the original surface was, and then you can replicate that with whatever degree of polish, sandpaper, these. And there you can see what I've done so far, and I'll just do that on all of those. And that's basically the same thing. When we are doing the springs, the back springs, and the tang area, you need to remember that in order for these to work properly, these have to match. In other words, if this is a correct spring, I'm not sure it is, we'll pretend it is, and I lay it in there, they need to be the same thickness. This tang and this spring end need to be identical. Like, there you go, that's a great example. They should be flat across there. So if I sand away or do anything here or here, I have to remember that I have to keep these equal. They have to stay the same. So again, I don't want to remove any more. I don't want to remove material. I just want to take off all this built up crud. And again, I will start with the rust erasers and see what they do. A lot of times that's all you need. If you have to, you can resort to sandpaper, but if you do, be very careful. Now in this case, as you can see, that is all we will need to use here. I use any and every tool that I think of. Sandpaper, polishing paste, these rust erasers, which are one of my go-to tools, whatever it takes to get that back. But I want to make sure that all that crud is off of there, because that inhibits it from working right once it's together. And when you're putting it together, you have artificial high spots from all this, and you're just not going to have a very good fit up, a very good job if you don't get all of that clean. So I will go ahead and clean these up. On the blades, I will sand those back to as close to the original finish as I can get them. And here you can see, especially along the top, we have plenty of clues to tell us what that original finish looked like. And so I know what I have to replicate. And I'm not going to, on this particular knife, I may be able to clean these up to where they look just about like new. But if they're pitted, you know, you've got to make a judgment call. You can only go so deep. But we want to stop any active rust. We want to clean them up, make them look good, and make sure the tang area, the holes, everything is cleaned up the way we need it. And that's pretty much it. So I will clean these up, and I'm going to dye that one handle with the various leather dyes to make a match, and I'll show you that. And then once Jeremy gets the shield inlaid and I receive the stag back, we'll go ahead and start putting these things back together. So I hope you're finding it interesting. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them best I can. You know, is this the only way to do this stuff? No. But it's the way I've been doing it for close to 50 years, and it's worked real well for me. It's nice to have things like this, but for most of those years, I just had just a big chunk of steel. You can see how much that's been used on every surface. It worked just fine. And the first steady that I ever had with these cutouts was just a piece of angle iron that I filed down and made some notches in, and it worked. So you don't need a huge amount of money and tools to get into this. Common hand tools, hammers, punches, things like that. And you can do this. You can take old knives that you buy at a flea market that aren't worth anything, take them apart, buy you some pins from knifekits.com or Jantz Supply, and just have fun cleaning them up, putting them back together. And I'll show you some more tips when we do reassembly. And I'd love to see if you guys, just like I say, especially if you've never done it before, I'd like to see you try it, and maybe if you can, film the results or just a link to a photograph, and I'd love to see your work. And if I can be of any help, just let me know. So that's it for this episode. You guys take it easy, and we'll talk to you soon, YouTube. Bye-bye.